embarrassing if you're the Phoenix Suns in that organization. I'm not even sure what to add, Hakeem. Kevin Durant was awful from the three-point line over the course of this series and just didn't want to take threes in this game. I guess we give Devin Booker maybe a little bit of slack because he's been so outstanding. You assumed at some point maybe he'd have a down game. But one of those two guys have got to take a ton of shots, try to take over the game, and not let the Denver Nuggets really basically finish this thing off in the first quarter. Total lack of effort, total lack of excellence, absolute embarrassment by the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, this was crash and burn indeed. Kevin and Devin combining for 35 points. Can't have it in a closeout. 10 rebounds, 12 assists. Stayed in there to get that triple-double. Might as well. Jamal Murray wasn't feeling great before tip-off. 26 points. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope drops in 21 points, 5 rebounds. And the Denver Nuggets on to the Western Conference Finals for the second time in the last 4 years. They lost to the Lakers in 2020 back in the bubble. That feels like 1,000 years ago, but it was only 3 years ago. And they're the 1 seed, and they are actually not the favorites to win the NBA title. The Celtics still the favorites right now. Denver Nuggets have never won an NBA championship, but man, they look like an NBA title contender right now, knocking out Kevin and Devin in the Western Conference semis. Welcome into CBS Sports NBA insider Bill Ryder. Bill, Phoenix Suns, thanks for showing up. That's all I want to say. Phoenix Suns, thanks for showing up. Durant. But what do we do? Where is the measuring stick here when you talk about these superstars jumping from team to team and it not working out?
Well, I feel like you're baiting me in a good way because I will put it all on Kevin Durant because I've said this here and I've said this on the radio show. I mean, for me, and this is going to sound like an insult, Hakeem. I don't mean it that way. Kevin Durant's the greatest, second best player in the history of the sport. He's like the best version of Pippen I've ever seen. But Stephen Curry was the best player on those Warriors teams, which was true back then. I think we know it's true now with the Warriors championship last year. And it's not just the inability to get it done with.
I sit here and look, we grade these superstars so quickly, Bill, right? Because they're superstars. But Kevin Durant, yeah, he joined the Warriors, won a couple titles, but they had already had an established core there. Goes to Brooklyn, doesn't work with James Harden and Kyrie Irving. Gets traded to Phoenix. They give up a bevy of first-round picks, 4 first-round picks, players, monster blockbuster deal. And I get it that maybe the expectations were too high for Kevin Durant to get to the Western Conference Finals, but this is what we do, right? This is a superstar in the NBA. This is a future Hall of Famer. This is one of the all-time greats. And now the last 2 places you've been, it has
ability. And I know he hasn't been in Phoenix long, but what we just saw coming up short of the Suns, remember, Kevin Durant had a 3-1 series lead in the conference finals on the Golden State Warriors in that Western Conference Finals just before that free agency where he went to Golden State. So you're right. We hold these guys to a huge standard. The expectation for a certain level of greatness is you win championships. You're the guy that is the most important player on those championship teams. And it may be unfair for a lot of folks. I don't know that it's unfair for Kevin Durant because, to your point, he is one of the most talented players, literally one of the 10 or 12 or 15 or 20, whatever, best players in the history of the game. You want to just talk pure 5 players in the history of the game. And the fact that we're here again, that he puts together these super teams and he can't be successful outside of one with the Warriors that already won a championship, it is a thing. It is a real deal. And what will be, I think, a huge storyline next year, Hakeem, is whether when he gets some time with his Sun squad, if he can change that reality.
Before we praise the Denver Nuggets, because I think they deserve a lot of credit, I think that they're sort of forgotten about, at least this season they were, that people don't realize how good they are. And I know they're led by Jokic, 2-time MVP, could have made the argument that he should have won a
gel. So you can look at it in a positive way, and you can say, all right, let's roll it back. I think that's probably what they'll do, Hakeem. But the wild card here is they have a new owner. And when he's not busy, flopping and interacting with Nikola Jokic, in his seat, I'm sure he's trying to make major decisions about what comes next. And we saw in that incident, he had Isaiah Thomas sitting next to him. There's been rumors that Isaiah Thomas, the Hall of Famer, might be involved in the front office in some way. And so what I think is fascinating, what I don't know the answer to, Hakeem, is this new owner and the people he's surrounding himself with to get advice. What do they want to do? This isn't the team he put together. This isn't the team that the people
conference semis last year. They lose by 25 in this one. So it's like, what's next for this team? The window feels like it's closing. It's not closed completely because you got Kevin Durant and you still got DeAndre Ayton. You know, CP3 is at the end of his career. He missed Game 6, his 4th consecutive game. So it's like, what's next here? Where do they go? Because they gave up a lot to get Kevin Durant.
Yeah, it's a really salient question, and it's going to be fascinating to see what the Suns do. Because you can look at this glass half full. If you're in that Suns front office and you're just trying to project, Akeem, what they are next year. If you want to have a positive perspective, no Chris Paul in most of the series. No DeAndre Ayton in this particular game. He was out injured. Kevin Durant, traded at the trade deadline, didn't play a lot of games. Down to a new level of leadership, a new group of leaders, and whether or not they feel a sense of urgency to make some changes.
On the flip side, the Nuggets not going to make any changes right now because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they're, of course, running their offense through the previous 2-time MVP and Nikola Jokic, a 30-point triple-double. That's 11 career playoff triple-doubles, 3 in this series. Is this roster, is this team led by Michael Malone, is this team good enough to win its first NBA title?
Absolutely. And put me on the long list of people who did not on Twitter while this game was going down, Akeem. You might have seen just NBA person after NBA person saying some version of, all right, I was wrong, I'm sorry, the Nuggets are great. And that reflected private conversations, a private perspective around the NBA. Players, scouts, front office folks, coaches, GMs, who liked Denver, who thought Denver was really good, who thought Denver was interesting. But the general consensus entering the playoffs was Denver's the 3rd or 4th most likely team to make a run. They're going to lose to Phoenix if they make it that far. I mean, they did not get the respect just in general. Overall, Michael Porter Jr., who's not always consistent, but can go out there and he can be the best shooter on the floor on certain nights. And just you go sort of through the list of this Nuggets team, they are so deep. And normally depth doesn't matter that much in the playoffs because rotations sort of tighten up and there's fewer guys that are playing and certain guys are playing more minutes. But it matters with this Nuggets team. And there's a level of energy and effort from Denver that maybe belies the defensive statistics in the regular season. Yes, the Nuggets are good enough to win an NBA championship, and that has caught a lot of NBA people, frankly, Akeem, by surprise.
In 2020, lost there. So they're back here in the Western Conference Finals. Who do they want to see? Who is the matchup that they can exploit?
It's a great question. And before I'm going to answer it because it's a great question and you deserve an answer. Let me say before I do, I think that unlike maybe in the Eastern Conference, and no disrespect to some of those teams, whatever team comes out of the Lakers-Warriors matchup, Akeem, is going to be good enough to win a series against Denver. And if they do that, and it's a big if, they're going to be good enough to win a series in the finals against whoever comes out of the East. Both of those teams, the Warriors and the Lakers, are good enough when they hit their heights, when they're playing at the level they can, to win the whole.
Have Jamal Murray because of the knee injury last year in the playoffs, and they lost to the Warriors in the first round. So people sit there and they go, oh, okay, well, they lost in the first round. They didn't have Jamal Murray. So, like, you got to remember that when they played the Warriors. And then the Warriors went on to win the NBA title over a very good Boston Celtics team. So all of that context is important when you talk about this Denver team. So they're going to face the winner of the Lakers and Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. I mentioned they played the Warriors last.
It was utterly. Before we started talking, I'm going to say that they'd rather see the Warriors, and some of this is you sold me on it, but part of it too is just I'm so skeptical of Anthony Davis. I'm skeptical of him showing up for 5 or 6 games at the level that he should. Figuratively, I'm skeptical for him showing up for 5 or 6 or 7 games. Literally, we've seen the injuries over the years, and there's a lot of role players in that Lakers team that have been outstanding, but that level of player tends to become less impactful as we get deeper into the playoffs because it feels different. That said, what Anthony Davis, if he can play, it's such an if, can do defensively, maybe to at least somewhat befuddle Jokic. And LeBron sort of hell-bent focus on, he knows he's near the end of his career.
They are into the conference finals for the second time in the last 4 years with a dominating win in Game 6 to close out the Suns on the road in Phoenix. Bill Ryder breaking down for us here on CBS Sports HQ. Bill, thanks. So the Nuggets await the winner of the Lakers and Warriors. In the regular season, they went 2-2 against the Lakers, went 3-0 against the Warriors. Now, they've never beaten either team in a playoff series. Lakers are 7-0, Warriors are 2-0. Lakers and Warriors play Game 6. Lakers can move on and close out the Warriors Friday night in Los Angeles as we await the winner of that to meet the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. Coverage continues here on HQ. Monty Williams, head coach of the Phoenix Suns. The season coming.